All right, welcome to VP Culture's Personality Science module, where we're trying to put together cultures that are built on the one thing that motivates all people, that's valuing people. We're creating cultures that are built on valuing people. So this is the second major unit called Personality Science, and this is the first lesson of that unit. And this is about the personality superpowers that each of us has, and how you as leaders and how we as a team can help release these superpowers on every single team so that we will experience more joy, more vitality, more solutions to problems, and send everyone home feeling like they're really being led to their best selves. So this is an amazing tool to be able to use as a leader. So according to Gallup, 70% of the engagement between a team leader and one of the team members is based on personality science. So if you could be targeting and helping that person to realize their own awesomeness, their own personality, and leading them towards that, they're going to have strengths in that personalities and weaknesses in that personalities. And so is the leader. When those are meshed well, when people are led to their strengths rather than to their weaknesses, you're going to have this huge rise in overall engagement that happens between leaders and team members. So this is a critical component of getting things right as a leader. And most leaders don't have a clue about this. So you're going to be a leg up on most leaders in understanding how to do this. Why is this so? Well, we will be able to predict perceptions. So it's like every individual is walking around with their own VR goggles and seeing the world with a special lens that's put through their lives so that they're filtering every single thing so that only certain people can see certain things and others can see things a different way. Each personality is going to have a unique perceptual take, and we're going to dive into the science as to why that is, so you'll understand, this is a true thing. Like if you're married and you understand, like, how come my spouse just can't see this? It's a thing. It's a personality thing. You probably have a personality difference, and that's why there's perceptual differences. Eventually, their eyes will focus on that thing and go, oh, I see it now. But it takes time, it takes effort to see things in a different way. I'm very much focused on the ideas of things. And oftentimes my wife is focused on the practicality of where everything is placed. And she'll say, how can you not see this? I'm like, how can you not see that idea? We'll often laugh about these things now because we realize it comes about from our different personalities. But it also makes us very strong as we lead teams together, that we can use her personality and my personality to their best strengths rather than butting heads over just having a different perspective. So this perceptual filtering is a big superpower that you're going to gain as a leader to be able to understand how each individual sees the world differently, hears the world differently, interacts with the world differently, all because of the input coming into their brain is different, is filtered, just like that. VR goggles will filter out and show you only a certain thing. That's how each personality ends up seeing the world. So you're going to be able to do behavioral predictions as another superpower that you're going to gain in this unit. You're going to be able to look at that individual and go, aha, I think they're going to be like that. And you'll be able to predict how they're going to react to the new training that's coming up, to the new personnel that's coming on, to being sent on a trip by themselves or sent to work with a group, public speaking. You're going to know which person on your team is going to like and have certain behaviors as being predominant behaviors and certain behaviors that they're not going to have or not going to be their defaults. So you're going to have to work with that and help encourage people towards their best selves and help encourage them away from those activities that don't jive well with their personalities, or help them when you know that they're going to be lifting a load that's going to be difficult for them to work with as in their personality type. So these are great tools to be able to, help gain the perceptual advantage that you understand they see the world differently and that they're going to be behaving differently than others. And then the third superpower is that you're going to be able to generate acceptance between individuals, you and that team member, you're going to feel much more acceptance going on between you than clashes, because you're having open conversations about, I'm good at this. This is my personality. This is yours. This is how we're going to mesh. And it reduces the amount of conflict greatly. You're still going to sometimes have those rubs, but you're going to understand the sources of it. And that's 3/4 of the battle. And ultimately, people going away feeling valued because they feel accepted for who they are. You're not going to be trying to jam a square peg into a round hole. Each time it's going to fit, and people are going to feel like, I fit, I belong, they get me, they understand me. This goes a long way towards that relationships of valuing people within your teams. When leaders can do this, they'll have these 3 superpowers, and it'll set them on an amazing course of building great teams. That's why this is so foundational. So let's dive into the science a little bit. We're going to talk about fluctuating selection, which is a big sort of scientific term that relates to some of the concepts that Darwin had about natural selection. He noticed on the Galapagos Islands that there was basically the family, the same species of finches, but over time, depending on the conditions, certain beaks would predominate. Okay, so it was all in the genetic material. It's just that the genetic material would express itself differently during different droughts or rainy seasons or different conditions. So their beaks became like different kinds of tools. Like this graphic here shows that you can use for different things, for getting little insects, for cracking a big nut, for getting nectar out of a little flower, or eating a beetle. So each beak was the key to unlock food in a certain situation. So this is a really good way of thinking about why we have different personalities in society, why they persist, why all the variation. It's so that there can be a different person to solve a different problem that comes up within our societies and within our cultures, within our teams. You'll get more problem solvers to solve a problem because of this fluctuating selection that is a thing in science that has to do with our genetic expression. And so when this fluctuating selection is applied to personality, you're going to have people that have better ideas, people that are really stable about ideas, people who see danger, people who aren't afraid of danger, people that see people who don't see people who negotiate well, people who perform tasks really well, people who can let go of tasks and have a good time, people that bring excitement, people that bring stability. You could see each one of these different personalities is the key to unlock a solution for your team. So when you start leading people towards their superpowers and unleashing the awesomeness in each individual, you're going to start seeing this as a tool that revolutionizes the way you start relating to people. And the people around you are going to start to feel valued. And that's what's so important. I can't tell you how much this has changed my life and my perspective on interacting with people across the dynamics, from the workplace to the family to friendships. It changes everything. When you can see things through this lens, you're going to unlock a ton of potential in your life as a leader and even as a team member. Working with others, you're going to make things so much better when you can work together based on these principles of personality science. So I'm excited to dive more into this. So here's something else that's unique about having those variations of personality on your team. What does it do to your team? Well, your team is going to outperform other teams by having all those variations. So you can actually select for it when you're building a team, and we're going to need this personality, that personality. So you're not only going to be leading one-on-one well, but you're going to be selecting teams better because you're going to know what personalities you need on a team, and you can get these different ways of thinking to work together on a team. And if your team leaders know how to function well and navigate this, because this kind of variety of personalities can also lead to conflict. I can speak personally to this because my wife and I, when we test on these personality tests, have a lot of different personality traits. And that leads to conflict and sometimes to laughter. But now, more and more, we understand, oh, that's a strength, not a weakness. That's not just weird. This is a problem-solving tool. And you're going to be good at this. I'm going to be good at that. And it brings peace on so many different levels, but it also brings a little bit of rub. So it's something that you're going to need to be aware of. But overall, rather than have cookie cutter personalities, which get along maybe really well, but they don't outperform. They get kind of complacent. They get kind of stuck. Whereas teams with a great variety of personalities are going to move forward quickly and outperform, according to a lot of different studies that have been done in the past by some social scientists. So let's dive into a story about how personalities worked together and conflicted in order to do something pretty amazing. We just now, in 2024, landed one of the first U.S.-made lunar landers on the moon after 50 years. 50 years. So 50 years ago, there were guys with pocket protectors and slide rules, no computers, nothing like this. And they put a man on the moon. Lunar modules was the key to landing the man on the moon. So you had to have one of these teams with a lot of different problem-solving skills. And there were practical guys who knew that. In fact, there was 2 guys on this team from MIT and Grumman, and Joseph Galvin and Robert Siemens. And you can see they got their pocket protectors. I'm not lying. Slide rules. Those old-fashioned glasses that they wore back then. But, they still had personalities back then. So you had guys that were really practical. This is the practical solution. Let's put rectangular windows on the lunar lander. And the other guy's like, no, they have to be angular. You see how triangular, you see how they fit together, and they reduce the weight, and there's less glass, and there's less chance for them to break. And so there was this big fight, so much to the point where they couldn't move forward. So the practical and the creative in conflict, which is the trait of openness. So these guys were in conflict, so much so that the team was breaking down. They weren't going to be able to deliver this on time. The time schedule and the pressures on these teams were immense. So they had a supervisor, George Lowe, who jumped in, and he kind of broke the stalemate. And he was good at this. So he was good at understanding practicality, creativity, and he was able to get these guys to work together. He did have to select and say, the rectangle is the more practical solution in this point. But he recognized that, but we need his openness still. We need his creativity still on our team. Both guys are good, leading their strengths, but I'm going to have to make a decision and go with this. And that's what a good leader can do. He can bridge the gap between different personalities and help people to realize that we do have to make a solution, we do have to move on, but everyone is contributing. Everyone is valuable. They were able to land a man on the moon because of these different varieties of personalities that they had on their team. And so they made history. A bunch of different personalities working together, landing somebody on the moon in 1969, which is an incredible feat, thinking that they didn't even have, those pocket calculators that we came out in the late 70s. They didn't even have that kind of technology when they put somebody on the moon. Mind-boggling feat of engineering that these guys were able to pull off over 50 years ago. So the power of personality in action. So you guys are going to be able to learn this and assimilate this into your kind of leading style moving forward. So hopefully you guys can land people on the moon. So let's look at some questions here. What did you learn about yourself in the personality test? So hopefully you took your personality test and hopefully it was revealing to you. Have a discussion about what you learned with your team. Next question. What did the personality test confirm about you? Something you've always known that was truly you, that this just confirmed and underlined. Talk about that with your team. How does it feel when people try to push you to be different from your personality? Has that happened in your past? Maybe a teacher or a coach or a different workplace? What does that feel like when you're pushed in a different direction other than the one that's natural to your personality? And the last question, Number 4, have you known someone who brings out the best in you and in others? How did they affect you? Do they just have a natural talent to bring out the best in people? How did that person affect you? So that brings us to the end of this lesson, personality superpowers. I hope you're getting a little bit excited about what details we're going to be learning in this section about how we're going to unlock the superpowers with you as a leader and the superpowers of the people on your team. The key is personality science. And so we're going to be delving into this in this next section. And so this has been lesson number 1, VP Culture Personality Science. We're focusing on building cultures all based on valuing people using personality science. Thanks for joining me, and stay tuned for lesson number 2.